building owned by a community college, which has got not only classrooms, but also has got workshops for practicals, as well as other facilities, information and communications technology to enable to train and produce the kinds of skills wanted by our adults. So that's what we've come here to do today. But what we want to do is that much as we are still going to be using schools for some time to come, but is to begin to have ready-made buildings and structures for community colleges in order to offer a mix now. Your old adult basic education and training colleges were only offering academic programs, progression. Please make use of the structure, it's yours. The government has built it, but it's for you. And also please look after it, especially to our young people. I do foresee in future, 10, 15 years from now, middle-aged people saying as a young person, that's where I laid the foundation for the work that I'm doing today as an entrepreneur, or as a professional, or as an artisan, or having some skills that I'm able to use in order to make a living for myself and for my family. We also now are adding short skills program, whether it's welding, whether it's basic bricklaying, whether it's baking, whether it's knitting, a whole range of needs. This represents our effort in deliberately expanding community education and training initiatives in our communities.
The wholesale and retail sector, which is the sector that we service as the W&RSETA, comprises of over 80% SMMEs. So that is quite a huge number. You are actually our biggest stakeholders. So it just makes sense that we get into a room and talk to you. Our CEO is here to listen to you. He's here to hear you. Tell him what is the mandate that you are giving to the W&RSETA to say this is how the W&RSETA can grow the SMME sector.
So we've got a roving mic right around the room, and I want to ask everyone, what are your expectations? Why are you here?
Hi everyone, I'm Cynthia. I'm from First Light Import and Export. I'm here today because I would like to see how W&RSETA can advance my business.
Good morning, colleagues. My name is Temba Denchauke from TYS Business, and I'm also a member of Township Entrepreneurs Alliance. Why I'm here, I want to align my business with W&RSETA because we do a lot of work with young people between Tembis and Sunspread. So what basically we do, we manufacture body sprays.
As we will be unpacking today's conversation and engaging, understand one critical thing. The most important person in this room is the person sitting next to you. If you had any other agenda or any other thoughts, you've got to drop. Why? Because that person could be a catalyst for you going to certain markets.
Guys, it's very important that when you attend such events, you're going to learn. Do that, like take as much as you can. It's up to you.
Have you ever had a moment in these 22 years where you felt like giving up? Or you actually did give up? And what did that look like?
I have a lot of them.
What was the experience? Take us through that.
I lost my car, I lost my house. What do you do? And your people, your peers, your friends, they just decide that, we don't want to be with you. You know, you are a failure.
So what keeps me up at night is not having customers, guys. When I don't get clients, I don't sleep. Honestly, I don't sleep. And lucky enough, I do have challenges, but I'm one person who, whenever there's a problem, I'll find a solution.
It's efforts such as these which really cement the W&RSETA as the best SETA in the country, especially when it comes to supporting us as small business owners. Some of us come from disadvantaged background with no prior knowledge of how to run a business, but you've empowered us to be able to be where we are today.
So just I think from the first part of our program that we had, and we had the panel that gave us, you know, they shared their own stories. You know, we yet now get into a different part of the program where, you know, much to what the gentleman was sharing earlier on, just sharing with the CEO and the team, how can you help? Where can the improvements be?
When you run a sustainable business, then you're able to employ more people.
And that's when we're going to be able to fight this unemployment rate and poverty. But sitting in this room, we are the solutions. So I would like to urge each and everyone, let's work together. And I therefore encourage that each one tell another. As entrepreneurs, let's hold each other by the hands. Let's grow each other.
Maybe we need to go back to the schools, starting at grade 10. Just expose them about the opportunities in the retail, because retail is very important.
I would like to collaborate with wholesale and retail SETA so that we can assist the SMMEs. In terms of township economy, we can really build strong, sustainable businesses if we all buy from each other.
What has become very clear today in our conversation is that, and I think it's something that we've been saying as W&RSETA, that we can't do this work on our own. We need big business, FDIs, those that are in the funding space, they need to be with us. We need those that are running in organizations that are dealing with issues related to incubation, mentorship, and support. So I think we need to create then that opportunity, a session like this, when we get all these big companies to come to you and have a conversation with you, so that we can then play a role from a skills development point of view, and they play a role in terms of the support.
The engagement means many things. For one, it's very empowering, being able to network and engage with like-minded individuals, being able to share our stories, pat each other's backs, and just share in our testimonies and our trials and triumphs as entrepreneurs, as only we can understand them.
So through skills development and so on and so forth, that's when ultimately your challenges in business are going to be resolved.
Most entrepreneurs, they give up because they don't know where to start, how to get access to information, and how to actually get the way forward, because people start businesses but they don't know where to go in terms of growth, which is W&RSETA give us a lot of opportunities and programs that people can enhance their business. They can be also visible on the platforms.
One of the things that came up from the panel earlier on was how these amazing three ladies were supported by the SETA, were able to just weather all the storms. But it wasn't easy. They had to endure, build resilience, and continue to go out there and put their word out. And that's how you actually get support and development.
As an entrepreneur, if you feel that you are going through a hard time as an entrepreneur, the calling is loud. And it's all the more louder the harder things get. But we'll get through on the other side.
My success story would be, thank you, W&RSETA. Thank you, CEO. Thank you, Sis Mata, for making me one of your best beneficiaries. Thank you. Thank you so much, because I wouldn't be here without you.
As the summary and closure, then we're done. Some of the things that came out, the first one was definitely access to market program, including agriculture, processing and farming, and a range of other sectors that will be covered under here. The second one was youth entrepreneurship focus on digital. The third point was on retail value chain support and owning the value chain. The fourth one was on entrepreneurship incubation. The fifth was on bringing big business along for the journey to engage with small business and outlining solutions they seek and opportunities. The second last one was retail academy with full business support on various aspects of running a retail business. And then the last one was collaborating to create awareness of the W&RSETA programs. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes our business for today. Thank you so much for joining the CEO's SMME engagement. Have a beautiful day further. God bless.
Today, we are extending the CEO Stakeholder Engagement Program. So today we're having the first ever executive conversations. You are the decision makers, and that is the reason why you are here. You are aware of the challenges that we are facing as a sector, and the solutions are actually in your hands. So hence you are here.
What is really, really important for us is how do we work together to ensure that we grow the sector? How do we innovate? How do we ensure that we empower those that are in the employ of the organization? We've got a lot of challenge in terms of our numbers. We don't necessarily meeting our targets in terms of those that are in the employ. It is therefore important that as a country, we really look at our workforce and our workplaces and ensure that our workplaces, as the previous minister used to say, that they become training spaces.
The way I designed this is not for us to have a talk shop, but for you to engage at a room level, for you to engage as individuals. And so you'll see that they flip charts across the room. You will be allocated a room. My request to you is use the theme that you have been given, and I will give you now at the table you've been allocated to, and really focus on 3 things. You'll see there's 4 questions that we've given to you. Speak at a system level, at an industry level. Number 2, the way we're going to do this is we've allocated 40 minutes for you to have a discussion at your table and to really go quite deep. How would you solve for this issue? Come with some practical, viable, feasible solutions that you think are important. And then thirdly, how do we take this forward? We're not going to solve it in one day, but today's a spark. Today's the accelerator. Today's the starting of that growth that says, how do we do this?
The question was, what emerging markets and trends should the sector be aware of? And our conversation was really around omni-channel. And the conversation we were having is to say there's a distinct difference between e-commerce and what omni-channel looks like. And how do we build that capability and how do we build that understanding?
We're talking on addressing youth unemployment and building future skills. We're here in this room. We've met quite a couple of people in different, same sector, just different companies. How about cross-company collaborations? What are you doing at Pick and Pay that we can piggyback on? What are we doing at Norcross that you can piggyback on?
If you ask anyone in high school whether or not they want to work in an Edgar's or in a retail space, they won't mention that because there's no guidance. But if there's a collaboration between the SETA, the employers, and the TVET colleges, and even the formal universities during career days and things like that, that can actually work.
The other element that we looked at is whether we, as bigger retailers or bigger doors, can move operations out further out to create more jobs in terms of logistics and manufacturing, and make it more accessible for rural development, and where we view expansion might be coming in.
When you bring multiple actors, from large companies to medium companies to small companies to training providers to particularly interesting individuals from different parts of the ecosystem, we have this ability to solve issues despite the competitive landscape at a system level.
We are at a point where I think we're excited about the future. Conversations that were had in today's meetings were, I think, an eye-opener.
I think we do face similar challenges, no matter how big or small we are, and also understanding the fact that you're not alone. There is quite a lot of support out there.
As we said today, retail and wholesale has never been known as a very attractive industry for a lot of young talent. So how do we get talent into the industry? And then I think it's around how do we develop the right skills? So things that we discussed would be around data and ensuring we have a full understanding of omni-channel and delivering the experience our ever-evolving customer is looking for.
We are going to take all of this input as part of the strategic planning process. And as you've indicated, Abdullah, that it's not, we need to prioritize because there's quite a lot that has come out. And if we are going to try and do everything all at once, we are not going to succeed. So I think with that, we have received our marching orders as the W&RSETA, and we are ready to go.
It's not just a conversation that I guess is the SETA's responsibility. Some of the discussions that we had here, we can implement in our own private spaces. And from here onwards, it's action, action, action.
I think it affords an opportunity for us to say we don't need to solve these things alone. We can solve them together. So it's a massive appreciation to the SETA for all the great work they've done to date with us. But having the conversation today, I think we look forward collectively to a brighter future as it relates to the wholesale and retail SETA.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a glorious morning. Thank you so very much to our esteemed guests for making the time to join us as we celebrate collaboration.
Today we are here to celebrate the presentations and graduation ceremony of the Wholesale and Retail SETA in collaboration with Zetech University. Informal Traders Exchange Program.
Moving on to the program, we are now going to invite on stage the Chief Executive Officer of the Wholesale and Retail SETA, and that is Mr. Tom Mkwanazi, to come and give us an overview of the program as well as welcome us to this meeting. Mr. Mkwanazi, please. We can clap for him.
It's been a very, very, very interesting journey and successful completion, and this today's celebration really is a symbol of triumph.
This training marks a major milestone because it's the first time that we have been involved in training traders outside Kenya. ZTEC has been involved in training locally for large scale, small scale, and also informal sectors. But we have not done it outside Kenya, and therefore we are very, very grateful, Tom, for giving us an opportunity to collaborate with the government of South Africa.
The collaboration between these two institutions is a reflection of the deep and broad relations between our two countries. Kenya and South Africa have enjoyed warm and cordial relations spanning over a period of 30 years.
The program started in August last year, and the program was mainly to upskill the informal traders in South Africa in the wholesale and retail sector. So we identified these traders from all the provinces in the programs that we've been doing. We wanted them to go and experience how other countries are doing, especially Kenya. Kenya in this regard has got a thriving informal trading economy. So we wanted them to learn about collaboration. How can our South African informal traders collaborate with the foreigners for them to take their businesses as serious businesses, because they play a role in the economic growth of this country and contributing into the economy of the country.
The main aim of this market immersion was for the participants to see what exactly is in our market. You can see there, for example, we had the participants visiting a coffee plantation that has over 500 acres of coffee.
One of the things that we realize is that institutions can become silos. You have your own information, you use it, you do not share. We can stay in South Africa and think that we are the only ones who know how to do business. We can stay in Kenya and stay with our knowledge and now start competing with South Africa. But in the real sense, the African culture is that of Ubuntu, a collaboration, coming together and helping to change lives. Because through what appeared to be a very simple collaboration, we have been able to change lives. We have seen people register new businesses, we have seen people change the scope of their businesses, and we have seen a lot of dreams that are actually coming true. So for me, it means that we are achieving and changing the nation, and we're living the African Agenda 63.
The journey you have embarked on has not only enhanced your knowledge, but also honed your skills and abilities, preparing you for future endeavors.
Good afternoon to all of you. Are you happy to be here? I am so excited to see you, and I am really happy that all the efforts we have made in time are going to pay off. So I just want to take you through what our expectations are. You can see we have judges there that are going to listen to your presentations, and the winning team is going to get something from ZTEC University. You know we are so good in giving gifts.
I'm one of the directors of Vrouwelijk Vrouwen Primary Cooperative. We are 5 women that's farming in the Northern Cape on 51 hectares. And as we all know, that farming is a male-dominated job. So if you hear women in farming, men are looking down. Before going to Kenya, I applied for funding. Coming back from Kenya last year, November, my one application was approved of 100,000 rand. And then early January, Another funding was approved through Raisins SA, 16 million.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Sanibonani. Oh. Sanibonani. Oh, Felix Molweni. I was just testing. Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our annual general meeting. The notice of the meeting was issued on time, and the agenda which prescribes the business of the day is also in front of you. For those who do not know me, my name is Reggie Sibia. I am the chairperson of the board for the wholesale and retail SETA. I am also aware that we have other people that are joining us virtually. So I'd like to also welcome the people that are joining us virtually. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2024 AGM is being held here in the Western Cape, in the city of Cape Town, as part of our commitment to engage with stakeholders across all provinces following the meetings that we hosted in Gauteng, Northern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, and Eastern Cape. And once more again, we are back in the mother city as part of our commitment to go around and also use this as an opportunity to meet all of our stakeholders. This AGM is a stakeholders meeting, actually, required by our constitution and as stipulated under section 15(1)(d) of our constitution, which prescribes that the AGM must, among other issues, consider the following: the annual financial statements of the accounting authority, an annual report on the accounting authority's affairs, the report of the Auditor General on the accounting authority, acceptance for recommendation to the Director General of the Wholesale and Retailer SETA's annual budget and business plan, our strategic plan. So we use this AGM to recommend also the submission of those two reports to our DG. So the AGM will consider the above mentioned reports for the 2023-2024 fiscal year, which ended 31 March 2024. The AGM will also outline the strategic priorities for the succeeding fiscal year and provide a platform for the wholesale and retail SETA to highlight its achievements that have been made in stimulating growth in the wholesale and retail sector through skills development. The AGM gives an opportunity for stakeholders to participate and present their opinions on the wholesale and retail SETA's financial and performance achievements and shortcomings. So, as part two of the business of the day, I'd also like to first just confirm the quorum as required by the Constitution, and the constitutionality of the meeting must be confirmed. Members of the Wholesale and Retail SETA Board, representing business, labor, and community, must be present in the meeting, and the quorum requires that the majority of board members be present. The board took office to provide strategic and oversight leadership of the wholesale and retail SETA on 1 April 2020 for a 5-year period as appointed by the Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, Professor Blades Nzimande. The board consists of 14 members with an equal representation of business and labor organizations as well as community organizations. And then an independent chairperson, which is me, which currently leads the board. Members of the board will be introduced via pictures to make it easy. I hope that the presentation of the pictures for board members is ready. So I'm not going to go through my list because last time I went through my list and I was not looking at the back. The sequence was different from what I was saying. But I think this time they've done it nicely because everybody is there. So I can just go with my list here. So we've got Ms. Zinhletikwe, we've got Mr. Sbusiso Busane, we've got Ms. Tandega Changase, we've got Mr. Temba Mtembu, we've got Mr. Mzimasegi Slimandlela, Ms. Lerato Madela, Mr. David Makua, Mr. Lucas Ramatlodi, Mr. Ross Reyners, Ms. Margaret Bango, Ms. Nonkululego Bukhopa, Mr. Sibele Sokabo, and Ms. Sebe Rasibitse. We also have, obviously, the independent audit committee members. Some are here, some are joining us virtually. So we have the chairperson of the audit committee, which is Mr. Khale Macha. And then we also got Dr. Len Kona. We've got Advocate Thabo Mueng. And then we've got Ms. Margaret Peary. The board's tenure is ending on the 31st of March 2025, which consequently makes this AGM the last AGM of the current board. I would therefore like to thank this board for their exceptional and remarkable leadership. I'd also like to thank the audit committee members who have really assisted the board in ensuring that they provide the right oversight. Let us give them a great hand of appreciation for a really sterling oversight work. Thank you. I'd also like to acknowledge again all our stakeholders, those who have joined us physically, and those who are joining us online via Zoom, and also via the social media networks that have been provided. We also have the following stakeholders that are part of the meeting, and I'd like to just make sure that from the department, we have Mr. Sifundo Nozibele, who's the Assistant Director, SETA Coordination. Is he here so that we can just acknowledge you, sir? If you can stand up. Not here yet. I see there's a lot of traffic there, so we hope that he's, but he's definitely indicated that he'll be joining us. Then we also got CEOs from other SETAs, from Agri-SETA, Construction SETA, In-SETA, PSET, and we also got the CEO from NYDA. Yeah, I think I've covered everyone. And then also I want to acknowledge, obviously, the wholesale and retail companies who, without them, we can actually not be able to actually execute the mandate. We also want to acknowledge business and labor organizations that will be with us here, private and public training providers, as well as institutions of learning, NGOs and other organizations that are here. Management would like to also acknowledge our beloved CEO, Mr. Blessing Tom Mkwanazi. I don't know why he doesn't like the first name, and I like it, Blessing. And he will introduce his management team during his presentation. So number two on the report as well is my chairperson's report. The wholesale and retailer SETA achieved remarkable outcomes for the 2023-2024 financial year, with the achievement of 91% of its annual performance targets, and the performance continues to increase to reach the unprecedented record in over 5 years. I think that deserves a hand of applause. It's a remarkable achievement for the SETA. So taking on the approved turnaround strategy, this current board excelled with meticulous execution of the turnaround strategy, and that takes maturity and leadership, ladies and gentlemen. On execution, when this board took over, it commissioned some key investigative studies to thoroughly understand some bottlenecks in the system. CEO, I am sure I can now say this after your excellent turnaround achievement after this. You know, one of the investigative studies that we commissioned was for us to really understand, because every oversight visit that we were going to, stakeholders were complaining about the time it takes to process claims, the time it takes to make payments. And in terms of providing that oversight, it was our responsibility to really commission a proper investigative study so that we can understand these bottlenecks. I'm not going to say what the outcomes were. You know, they were quite alarming to some of us. But that's why I say now I can say this now because the CEO really did a sterling job in taking that investigative work and turning it around to ensure that we deliver. We are not exactly where we want to be, but I can assure you now, standing here in front of you, that most of our payments are now within 30 days. Let's give that a hand of applause. So it was really that kind of intervention which was based on supporting evidence and focused approach. And also, you know, what this board did was to place key emphasis on consequence management. And the outcomes are very evident, because if we are really serious about delivery, consequence management has to be part of that mix. People need to know that they are serving, you know, the stakeholders, and then that there's a mandate we need to deliver on. And if we are not delivering according to that mandate, there should be consequence management. And this board was actually very, very, focused on that aspect. The board executed its mandate on projects oversights, visits, and taking lessons back to management for execution. This board executed the transformation agenda and will be leaving behind capacitated black training service providers as just one example amongst many other projects. We have now 45 black women, men, youth, and people living with disability who were trained and now fully accredited by QCTO to enter the wholesale and retail SETA training space. And there is also an opportunity of them extending their scope. But what is more important, which is really meaning transformation, is that after this accreditation, we will be giving them allocation, meaningful, you know, work, so that they can start to actually hitting the ground running. I think that deserves a hand of applause. And CEO, we are not waiting for next year for this to happen. It must happen by December 2024. I've got witnesses in front of me. That's why I'm saying it. We are very proud of this transformation intervention and to fulfill the mandate of reducing poverty, unemployment, and inequalities. If our skills development intervention cannot address any of those three things, then that program is actually useless. There's no any other way. Any program that the SETA does must talk to these three issues that are facing our society. We also introduced the stakeholder query management system to ensure that stakeholder challenges and queries can be tackled in terms of time taken to resolve them. We have introduced really the culture of measuring everything we do. What cannot be measured, it cannot be improved. And we as a board, we are serious about stakeholder management. It is very, very important that we understand where the bottlenecks are so that we can then put the right pressure points to management to ensure that they execute that what is required. At this point, though, let me also single out the leadership and the capability of our CEO in addressing these initiatives of the board. I want us to give him and the management and staff who supported him a great hand of appreciation. And that's why I say, Mr. Blessing Mkhwanazi, you are indeed a blessing to this organization. Another hand of applause for that. Okay, in this fiscal year under review, Wholesale Retail SETA, amongst other things, hosted also the Skills Development Summit. As part of wrapping up the summit, we also hosted the Good Practice Awards. These awards recognized organizations and individuals that demonstrate extraordinary commitment to skills development, particularly skills development planning, reporting, and going beyond compliance with legislation. This accomplishment, along with the recognition of the Wholesale and Retail SETA by the Small Business Development Department Minister's Award for Innovative Solutions, supporting small, medium, and micro enterprises, underscores. I think to have that award also deserves a hand of appreciation from the minister. Right. On audit matters, the Wholesale and Retail SETA received an unqualified audit opinion from the Auditor General of South Africa during the year under review, affirming again the organization's integrity and accountability. A hand of applause. On strategic achievement, the completion of the Information, Communications and Technology system during the 2023-2024 fiscal year marked a significant milestone, reducing manual interventions with stakeholders by nearly 90% and enhancing internal customer satisfaction. Again, this was part of the turnaround strategy. It was one of the key enablers to ensure that we improve the efficiencies in the business by actually reducing manual processes and make sure that we automate as much as we can to ensure smooth operations as well. As outlined in the 2020 to 2025 strategic plan midterm progress report, Wholesale and Retail SETA has fully achieved 11 out of 20 targets set and is on track to meet the remaining 9 by end of the 2024-2025 financial period. So we're on track as well, because at the beginning of this 5-year journey, we also set the targets that are strategic that we need to meet by end of the 5-year end term. And I'm really pleased to say that though I won't be here, I won't be standing here, but we are very, very confident that when we come and present it next year as an organization, it will have been achieved. Our strategic focus remains steadfast in fostering a robust, inclusive, and sustainable economy through 7 key priority areas: priority skills plan and stakeholder engagement, development of SMMEs, cooperatives, and informal traders, addressing youth unemployment, balancing skills demand and supply, integration of the circular economy, green initiatives, sector transformation, as I've alluded earlier on, including training and employment of people with disabilities, economic recovery and reconstruction plan, the ERRP. Those are our key strategic interventions. On strategic relationships, collaborations with key stakeholders is paramount to our success in skills development. The Wholesale and Retail Skills Development Summit 2023 provided a platform to highlight the sector's achievements in implementing the National Skills Development Plan, NSDP, and identifying the skills required for the evolving workplace. We have a number of strategic partnerships with stakeholders, government institutions, universities, and other SETAs. This list is endless and keeps growing. Our stakeholder engagements, including visits to beneficiaries, allowed us to understand the challenges within the wholesale and retail sector's operating environment and explore opportunities for implementing skills development initiatives. Moving ahead, the wholesale and retail sector 5-year strategic plan will continue to focus on the strategic priorities indicated earlier. The board continues to focus on sound administration, governance, and high-impact projects, with the launch and short-turning of skills centers like Sekhukhune TVET and the Free State CET colleges, respectively, having taken place in the first quarter of the 2024-25 fiscal year. The board approved other similar projects in line with the government's ERRP. The board is committed to ensuring that the wholesale and retail sector continues to improve on its performance and to be recognized as an employer of choice. Finally, the board would like to acknowledge the support and contribution of the following: the Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, Professor Blade Zimande, and Deputy Minister, Minister Buti Manamela, in absentia, which were the ministers during the period under review. We also like to acknowledge stakeholders, wholesale and retail companies, constituents, organizations, institutions of learning, and other partners that make it possible for the wholesale and retail sector to execute its mandate. Again, our CEO, for his sterling leadership as the wholesale and retail sector continues its efforts of continuous improvements. The support of his management team and staff makes all the achievements possible. Going forward, the wholesale and retail sector will also like to acknowledge the newly appointed Minister of Higher Education and Training, Dr. Nobuhle Nkabane, and 2 deputy ministers, Dr. Mimi Gondwe and Mr. Buti Manamela, in absentia, and looking forward to an excellent working relationship. That is the end of my report, which was then the chairperson's report, item number 2. We will now go to item number 3, which will be the CEO's report for the financial year 2023-24. Over to you, CEO. End of applause for him, please.
Thank you, Chairperson, and stakeholders present here. I'm not going to acknowledge everyone like we do in government. I'll just say all protocol observed, and you are welcome here, and we really appreciate your attendance of this session today. For me, it's just to share with you what, as a SETA, we've done over this last financial year and the previous years. And I think the chairperson, if in the nutshell, was sharing with you, it's all that information that is being indicated there, that we had to come up with a turnaround strategy, and obviously we had to come up with a new operating model within the organization. The organization was too centralized, hence we're not performing the way that we're supposed to perform as an organization. And the board approved 3 issues. They said we must look at people, processes, and systems. So we had to look to the people in the organization internally and ensure that they are capacitated. We understand what the skills shortages were within the organization, and ensure that they are capacitated. And the next issue was for us to look at processes and also and ensure that we also put in systems in place. So looking at digitization, as we've indicated. We were working in an environment. The reason why we're talking here about output trends within the sector resilience was the fact that when we approved that turnaround strategy together with the National Skills Development Plan, at that particular point in time, we didn't know that we were going to be hit by COVID-19. We didn't know that we were going to have riots. We didn't know that as an organization, we were going to have floods in certain parts of the country, which was then related to the climate change. We didn't know that there was going to be a Ukraine and Russia war, geopolitical issues. All those particular issues were issues that the SETA for the past 4 or 5 years were operating under. But we also had our issues within the country related to the energy issues that were affecting the sector. We also had issues related to logistics that are being attended to by the government of national unity. We didn't know that there was going to be a government of national unity. So all these are the issues that as a sector we are grappling with as an organization. But as an organization, we do have, we did try and ensure that we want to transform the organization, we want to transform the sector, and together with our stakeholders, hence the 91% performance, hence the unqualified audit that the chairperson has indicated. If we just look back to 2018, we will realize that when I got into the organization and the new board was in place, we were performing at 32% as an organization. We had a qualified audit. We had a lot of issues administratively as an organization. We had almost 55 findings by the Auditor General. When we started as an organization with the board, we had backlogs. We are not making payments. Some of the stakeholders actually went under because of the work that we're not doing as an organization, because we were facing all these particular issues. We had irregular expenditure. I think we're just being nice there. We had over 400 million irregular expenditure if we take it all, not just focusing on the SCM at that particular point in time in an organization. So, which we have now reduced to 12 million. So we had to deal with the backlog. We had to set up a backlog team. Currently, we're probably doing better as an organization, like the chairperson has indicated, but we want to do more. And that is why our motto in the organization is that we're moving from good to great together, you know, because this was a great organization and it still is a good organization, but we want it to be a great organization. So this is the trend. So we started at 32% and we ended up at 91%. And other people would then ask us a question, why did you go up to 86% and then go down to 81%? It was COVID-19. We had to reduce. We remember we had a levy, what do you call, a levy holiday at that particular point in time, so we had to reduce the number of targets that we had. So in a way, our performance was, although it was good, but almost fictitious in a way because of the time, during that time. But we've been on an upward trajectory as an organization, hoping that we will end up with 100%. So here we're just looking at our overall performance over the period of 5 years as an organization. You would then see that we, in 2021, we had an unqualified audit, but then we went back down to 21, 22. Again, we had issues with our systems, and I'm sure you remember at one point you guys were using debt benefit templates. We did not, there was a time in the SETA where we did not have a system at all, where we're making payments manually. Because of all the other regular expenditure issues that I've been indicating to you, we got into trouble at that particular point in time, but we managed to therefore sort out those particular issues. We also have planned to reduce manual processes within our system. And when I got into the organization, I used to receive a payment that I couldn't see on the other side of my table. Just 2 payments or 3. So we've reduced that, we've reduced the processes, so we've put in some systems. We're not, again, yet there, but we've almost gotten up to 10 processes that we've put in place as an organization, and we are still improving as an organization. We are also very, very mindful of the fact that young people get into the sector by accident. And that is why it is important for us to have the outcome where we look at issues of career guidance within the organization. So we've had 787 career guidance events within the organization. But what we did also, Chairperson, is that we set up a career guidance strategy that has come up with a career guidance toolkit that is already in place, because we wanted to have meaningful, not just events, but meaningful career guidance so that young people can see an opportunity in the sector and they do not get into the sector by accident. We are the only SETA that has trained employees to be career guidance practitioners, because for us it is important that they don't just give papers to young people, but they actually engage with young people the way that they are supposed to engage with them, so that they can really be enticed to be in the sector. The chairperson has already indicated the work that we've done on the historically disadvantaged individuals that we've supported in terms of HDI training and it's indicated the program. But we've also worked with a lot of institutions of higher learning within the organizations on the number of programs, including assisting them on ICT, getting involved in the infrastructure project and ensuring that the infrastructure in those institutions of learning are what they are supposed to be, because most of our TVET colleges and community colleges do not have the proper infrastructure within their organizations. Research, for us, research is very, very, very important because we really need to understand the sector and the changes that are taking place, but also we want to ensure that we track the impact of the work that we've done. So our target was 16 and 5, and we've already done 16 and 10 impact reports, because it is important for us to understand whether the programs that we are about are just not about numbers, about the impact that they are making to those young people or those that are employed in our sector, or our entrepreneurs or our SMMEs or our cooperatives. We have, over the past 4 years, achieved about over 39,000 young people that have been in our programs, and 40.2% of those are people with disability. We have surpassed the target of the sector, which is 2%. But we feel that we can still do more. But the other area that we want to look at is ensuring that young people in rural areas do get opportunities. So our target was 12.5%, and we've surpassed the target to 29%. Informal traders, just over 11,000. Cooperative, just over 195,000. 195. And we've had about 5 transformation projects that we have implemented as a SETA. We've also supported the unions. As part of our NSDP, we've got what we call worker-initiated program. When we started in 2019, we're not meeting this target at all as a SETA, but we've now done well. We've almost trained up over 5,000 trade union members within the sector, and also had about 40 interventions. Those that are in the employ of the organization, we have supported about over 37,000, and we've also overachieved this particular target. It's quite a challenging target, which we usually do not meet, but we can see from a strategic point of view that we are moving forward. Those that are looking at issues of priority skills, we've done about 110, 1,975 of young people supported with ICT skills, and also we've supported 3,404 unemployed who are completed programs that all started their own businesses. Where are we not doing well? We're still not doing well on unemployed bursaries, but we are seeing some changes within the sector in terms of the support that we are getting, especially the NQF level postgraduate. We're seeing a lot of change in the sector and the submission, and we really thank you for getting involved in that process. And we also finding that young people don't finish the programs, and you can see we haven't met that target, but obviously still a 5-year target in terms of finishing our programs. And then we also struggle a little bit with employed learners registered in our learning programs. We're not sure whether employers are not necessarily happy to train those that are in the employ of the organization. So those are the 3 targets that we are working hard to ensure that we with you as a sector, you can then assist us. Our operational highlights really are that we have had about 624 learners awarded bursaries to enroll on ICT qualification. For us, that's really important because you know that the sector is changing. It is important that the young people then that get into the sector actually have proper qualifications in terms of the ICT skills. But we are also looking at whether we should be looking, because each provinces, all the provinces that we have got various needs that are different as an organization. So for us, that is important. We're not just doing our skills plan at a national level and making a one-size-fits-all kind of an approach. So that is why we are now focusing on provincial skills plan. Our informal traders in this financial year under review, we had I think a target of we've surpassed the target, which was I think a target of about 300. We're looking at entrepreneurs, so and the number we've exceeded by 97. The informal traders, we've also surpassed their target by 453. The SMMEs, we also surpassed the target by 573, which was a target of 3,000. And then on cooperatives, we've also surpassed the target by 24. Youth unemployment, in this financial year under review, we also were able to surpass the target by, yes, we have surpassed the target by 16,000, by the number 16,000. Hard to fill vacancies, 22,000 in the year in the year under review. We've also surpassed that particular target. Stakeholder engagements, we're very, very, very keen on engaging the stakeholders and understanding what the stakeholders' needs are. So we really do spend a lot of time on that, Chairperson. We also focus on people with disability. I think the number is clear there. I don't have to repeat that. On the sector transformation, 298 on RMDP, which is a retail management development program, and 182 of those completed the program. And we're very happy about this because the program seems to really do very well, and we really support, we really appreciate the support that we get from the sector. International development, ILDP, International Leadership Development Program, we had a number of 47 and 63 completed the program coming from the other years. I indicated to you that we're getting more applications to the master's program. We had a target of 15, and the sector said, no, we require more, and we increased that number, and we really appreciate the work that is being done by the sector in supporting and ensuring that they are training those that are employed. And I think this really deserves a round of applause from the sector. generally on the numbers that we've seen on NQF level 7 and 8 is that we had 636 learners that were enrolled. Here we are talking about the employed learners. And what is even pleasing about this is that 371 of those are women, which is 58%. And of these women, 340 are from the historically disadvantaged backgrounds. So really we can see that the sector is transforming. Chairperson, thank you very much. I would like to then take this opportunity to really thank the employees of the SETA. All the work that has happened is not because of the CEO. I had the chairperson talking to the CEO, but it is the work of the employees on the ground that have made everything that is happening happen. And I also like to take this opportunity again to thank the management team, and I think maybe they must just stand. It's the CFO here, Lindy Wentlapo. Dr. Debbie Machad, who is the SPP executive. Sipho Shoba, who is the Chief Operations Officer. ICT Executive, Barnabas Musakwameng. Sugar, when we were somewhere, when we introduced Sugar, one lady even wanted to go and hug Sugar, but because of the name Sugar. Sugar Ngobo, who's our corporate services executive. And then we've got Masana Ngobeni there, who's our chief audit executive. And then we've got our senior manager there, governance, risk, and compliance. And then we also, Lisa, who's our senior manager from this particular province, together with Ashley. I think those you know. And then all the other team members, marketing and communication, Martha is also there, who really, with other team members that are not here, who are online, have really played a role in terms of the work that we've done as a SETA. Chairperson would also like to take this opportunity to thank the department. I don't know whether Sfundo is here. Sfundo is there. We don't always see eye to eye on a whole range of things, but we appreciate the support that we really get from the department, and obviously pass our regards to the Director General, to everyone within the department. And lastly, just thanking you, all our stakeholders, and I constantly do this all the time and say, we can't do our work without our stakeholders. We just facilitate skills development. So you open your doors for young people to get into your space. You give time to those that are employed in the organizations. We've got our training providers that train informal traders, that also train SMMEs. So we've got institutions of learning, we've got TVET colleges. All of these stakeholders are really, really, really important to us. And lastly, just to thank the board for the support. Any CEO of any organization can only succeed if there is proper governance within the organization that works and provides proper strategic direction in the organization. So really, we appreciate the board, and I think you need to give them a round of applause, including the independent members of the audit committee that keeps us on our toes. It's all in for the good cause, because without good governance, nothing will ever happen right within the organization. We really thank you for your challenging us and supporting us at the same time, and for the success of the sector, and not for us in an organization, for the success of the sector. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, CEO. Let me repeat it again. I just elevated you, but I did say with your management and staff. But to complete it, can all the management who are here and the board and the audit committee committee people just stand up? And ladies and gentlemen, let's stand up with them and give them all, a hand of appreciation, a standing ovation. But I want them to stand first so that you can see them. Board members, audit committee, management. These are the people who have made it happen. It's a collective effort. Now I want you to stand up together with us, because without you, we would never have even achieved this mandate. So a standing ovation for all of us. Thank you very much. And the department, let's also remind you that on the SLA we achieved 81%. That also needs a hand of applause. So we're looking in all the areas. We are focused. On that note, thank you, CEO. And let me now invite our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Lindy Wentlapo, who will be taking us on the presentation of the 2023-2024 audited annual financial statements. Let's give her a hand of applause.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Or I don't know if it's still afternoon or evening, but molweni. The CEO has done the difficult task of taking us through the background and where we are in terms of our achievements. I'm not going to take much of your time. I think I've got the easiest task of just presenting what has already been audited and verified by independent auditors. Having said that, before I get into the presentation, I think it's important that I outline, I would say, core principles of how one would measure, I would say, the financial performance of an entity such as ourselves. I would think there's three key ones. There's multiple, but there's three key ones. First one is that we are not a profit-generating organization. Now, that is quite important because when I take you through the figures, the expenditure might look alarming to those who generally tend to read and understand financial statements of a profit-generating organization. And I will talk us through that and what that actually means in our space in measuring our performance. The second one, I would say, talks to how we manage our reserves versus our commitments. I think that's a very key measure of how we are performing as a SETA, because in as much as we are not a profit-generating organization, we are also not meant to be hogging funds and not allocating it to the respective projects and interventions. Other way around could be that we are allocating funds, but actually we are allocating funds that we do not have. So it's striking that balance, and I think that is a very key measure of how we're managing our finances as a SETA. And I would say the third one, another key and core principle of measuring us is on compliance. We operate in a very highly regulated environment, rightfully so, because we are custodians of public funds. So we have various laws and regulations and legislations that we need to abide by, and failing which it has an impact in how we are measured and audited by the Auditor General of South Africa. So essentially, I think I've summed the presentation, but I will still take you through it. But I think those three core principles will make you understand where we are standing and how we had fared out in the year that's under review. Firstly, I will start off with our key and main revenue generator, which is the skills development levies. Compared to the prior year, we have actually increased by 11%. We've collected about 1.5 billion rands worth of levies. This is really testament and really speaks to a resilient sector. I think the CEO mentioned the various challenges that were faced by the sector in the last couple of years, and yet we are still seeing this nature and this kind of growth. So it really does speak to a sector that is resilient. Now, here's the interesting part. I've spoken to the SDL, but also we're just looking at where we fared out in terms of budget. So even with the SDL itself, the income, we exceeded budget by 5.8%. And then our DG spend. So if you do a comparison of our income and DG spend, you'll see that it's actually almost aligned. DG, where did we fare out in terms of comparison to budget? We basically were short of budget by 7.3%. However, I would not view that as negative. I think a variance that is within the 10% range is reasonable and actually does speak to the fact that we did well. We did well in terms of what we had planned to achieve, in terms of DG expenditure, and where we actually ended up. Mandatory grant is, I would say, where our biggest disappointment is. In terms of budget, we're literally 28% below budget. That is quite a significant variance. And also, I'd like to appeal to yourselves as our stakeholders because this speaks to your participation. It basically says that the level of participation in the space and applications of mandatory grants and submissions of WSPs is not at the level that we are expecting it when we are setting our budgets and our targets. So this is really an appeal to say, please do participate, please come on board, so that we can see that number also increasing. Remember I said we're not profit generating, so actually the more we spend, actually it correlates directly to our performance, it correlates directly to how we service the sector as well. And here, the CEO had a beautiful 5-year graph as well, just showing you in terms of our targets and performance, how we're fed out. So just this analysis also does the same thing, and I'm focusing primarily on expenditure and not levy receipts, simply because this talks to how we are performing. And you will see that the discretionary grant over the years has spiked quite significantly, that correlating and to the presentation that the CEO has actually presented in terms of how we've gone about in achieving our targets over the 5-year tenure. The blue line, I know it's a bit, if you're sitting far back, you won't necessarily see the difference, is speaking to our administration costs. Now here is where we obviously need to exercise prudence and actually employ proper budget management mechanisms because we have a limit there, we have a legislated limit on how we manage our admin spend, and you will see that over the period, so that doesn't really talk much to our performance in terms of servicing the sector, but it talks to just cost management, just general cost management, operational cost management. If you look at that line, it's fairly straight, fairly stable, slight, very gradual increase, which really is just inflationary increase. So that really is indicative of the fact that we are still managing our core operational expenses within the limits. And in an event that we have a challenge, we make sure that we are actually still in compliance to the regulation in terms of that. Mandatory grants, I've already indicated the disappointment. We'd like to see that spike as well. We'd like to see more participation from the sector in terms of your WSP applications. And then here we're just highlighting just total revenue now, total revenue, this being inclusive of interest that we earned on funds that sit in the bank. And that versus last year has increased by 12%, SDL increased by 11%, adding interest is about 12% increase year on year. And total expenditure, now this is very pleasing. You know, this does not speak to reckless spending. Hence, it was very important for me to highlight those core principles that we are not profit generation. So this actually means, as a SETA, we are dispersing funds as we should. But more than that, if I actually jump to the next, Yeah, I'm just going to jump to this slide because I want to focus on discretionary grants. What this actually means, it's showing the collective effort. This basically is saying yourselves as the stakeholders, you are meeting your milestones, you are delivering on projects on time, you are actually doing the work that needs to be done. But also what it does mean as well, as the CEO has indicated, in terms of the changes and the reforms that we as a CETA have also introduced in making sure that the turnaround time of our claim processing, turnaround times of payment processing is actually improving, affects how that looks. So this is not reckless spending, this is actually very positive. The fact that we are dispersing funds at this rate and the fact that the sector itself, in terms of milestone deliverables, you are actually meeting your targets on time. So just coming back to the side of the slide where we're talking about operating surpluses and deficit. So this year we've actually then, because of that level of spend, we've reached a deficit of 271 million rand. So we don't talk about profit and losses here, we just talk about deficits and surpluses. And one would wonder, but why would you actually incur a deficit? Where does the money come from? Like I've indicated, we have reserves. And that's the point number 2 in terms of how do you measure our performances. We actually have reserves that National Treasury has given us the approval to retain them, and we actually utilize the reserves to actually pay for that. So we've received income that is far less than what we have spent, but we've actually utilized the reserves, which results in what we call a deficit. And it's not a loss. So I just want to highlight that it's not a loss. It's called a deficit in our space. And here, this is actually quite important. It speaks to the second point, which is how do we manage our reserves versus how do we actually put our allocations in place, or rather allocate the funds that we have available. So you will see that from a solvency perspective, in terms of what we have in the bank, which is the green line, and the reserves that we have, which is the blue, and the commitments, there is a close correlation. One would also question, but it looks like you are allocating more funds than what you have available if you look at the yellow line. And that is true. We are doing that, but remember with commitments, when we do so, that balance of commitments of 2.5 billion, a portion of it, about 10% of it, when we're reporting, has not yet been contracted. It's committed in terms of we have provided and given our stakeholders award letters, but we have not contracted these yet. And at the time of contracting, generally, we end up actually with lower numbers than what was given at the time of award letters, because lenders still need to be registered on the system. So in the end, it actually balances out. You'll find that the yellow line, once the contracting has happened of that 10%, will actually drop to the level of our reserves. So that is something that we closely monitor. But ultimately what it's saying is that we are quite comfortable with our solvency as a CETA, in the sense that we are not sitting with funds that we are not allocating, and vice versa, we are not allocating more than we are actually able to commit, or rather to honor over a period of time. Then the last point that I made was compliance, and I think that's a very important one. The CEO also touched upon it. In terms of where we were 5 years ago and where we are now in terms of our irregular expenditure and also fruitless and wasteful expenditure. So if you look at this graph, reading it from the right, going down, blue going down, you'll see that over the time period we are showing a regression, which is actually a positive thing, because it means that from a compliance perspective, we are actually improving. We've put measures to actually get better. Ultimately, we do want to get to a point where it's an absolute zero. And I think it's quite important as well that I do explain this again. It's because I know a lot of yourselves do not work in the space, what the two actually mean. Irregular expenditure, generally what it means is basically the fact that we have not complied with certain regulations that we needed to, and the related expenditure is then disclosed as irregular. Does that mean all of it, there was no value for money? Absolutely not. In some instances, yes, there was value for money, but perhaps the paperwork was not done as it should have been done. Where there's an issue or question mark around value for money is fruitless and wasteful expenditure, which is on the left-hand side. That has also decreased in the years. This year we incurred about 300,000 of it, and there basically it was the cost avoidable, and it should have been avoided. We are looking into that, and I've said we are reducing it, and ultimately we do want to get to a point where it's absolutely zero. And lastly, I think 3 years ago, I stood in front of you and had to explain why we had a qualification. And we made certain commitments with regards to just gradual reforms that we need to put into the system, the main one being really automation, improving efficiencies. And this is the result of that. We're not exactly where we should be. We are still making further commitments. I think the CEO has done so too, to say that there's room to still get better. We are definitely en route and have a target to actually get to a clean audit. There's another step or another layer and level above unqualified audit, which is actually a clean audit. And that is actually where we are trying to get to. We're trying to make sure that every change that we put in place, every efficiency and changes in processes speaks to that and actually shows the progression and improvement in our systems. Having said that, I think I've come to the end of my presentation. I'd like to also just extend a word of thanks to the governance structures. We've got a chairperson of our FinCo, chairperson of Audit and Risk Committee, and also the chairperson of the board, and obviously the respective members, for just your oversight. And I think the most important thing for me in my role in getting us here is allowing me the space to put in place what I needed to put in place. It's still work in progress, but I think that in itself has been very great, that level of support in ensuring that we can actually get to where we are versus where we were a couple of years back. So I'd like to actually thank you for that support and for the continuous oversight of that. Thank you.
Thank you, CFO. Pleased that you are reflecting back as well. And I'm sure 2 years time down the line, when some of us won't be here, you'll be standing here and when you're talking of a clean audit and saying, I did tell you that in 2 years' time we're likely to have a clean audit because that's our aspiration. Another hand of applause. But well done, emphasizing again the teamwork, especially when it comes to audit outcomes. You know, it's just not just finance. The issue of compliance flows across the whole organization. And so to get, a positive audit outcome, it means every department or every head of department needs to be the part of the system to ensure that we get these kind of things that we are now proud of today. So I'll now be calling upon Dr. Machat. We're starting exactly at 18:10, so we are on track with time. So Dr. Machat, you have to take us up to 18:20, presenting the 5-year strategic plan and annual performance plan for the 2025-2026 financial year. Thank you. A hand of applause for Dr. Machat.
Thank you, Chair. Taking you to 1820, never a problem with me. So my job is to ease you into the next 5 years. We've, at the end of this year, just to give you a bit of context, we are coming to the end of the 5-year period in a 10-year cycle, and part of what I do, which gives me the gray hair, is to measure performance and impact. But the other part that I enjoy is to work with strategy and with my amazing team and with the executive team and the supporting and enabling business units to look at and project and to think about in hindsight, but also how we are going to move forward. So one of the things that obviously had happened this year in this planning for our next 5 years, which we talk about 2025 to 2030, I know it feels like decades away, but it will fly. If anything, that this 5-year period is to go on, that flew. I joined the CETA in 2018. I can't believe that it's already 2024. I'd like to think I'm still going strong. But so we've spent a lot of time this year, but obviously we had some environmental things that started happening around this year's 24-25 plan. We had a general election, and the outcomes made us sit and reflect a lot. And then also with the department, we're waiting for a new framework to be approved by Parliament. So the department has given us time to review 24-25, and it should be posted on the website. And really, at the end of the day, what we did was we took the opportunity to clean up just some narrative around 24-25 that has changed. But obviously, what is now really, really prevalent and something that will guide us going forward is that there is a new MTDP placed before Parliament, and hopefully by the end of October it will be approved. So what we're doing is we're planning now around that, but we've spent a lot of time this year. One of the things that I get to do that is fun is to do research, believe it or not, and we've spent a lot of time measuring impact. Because if you can't measure the impact, you can't drive and move forward. So the national frameworks are very much still in place, but our sector has changed. If I sit and think where we were doing the planning in 2018, 2019, everything that happened between, in terms of the 5-year cycle, and obviously the growth of the sector and the various issues affecting the sector, like, for example, digitization. Retail is moving into what I believe new era. There's also the issues around green and green skills, sustainability. We now all talk about environmental, social, and governance issues affecting the sector. And I think that the next 5 years is going to really, really be awesome. And there's been huge change and growth around skills development within the retail space. But let me get into the annual performance plan, which is based, those of you that would know, there's a sector skills plan, which is the umbrella document that talks to the entire sector. And that document is within the department. We haven't had feedback yet. And that's the 5-year projection. Heavily research-based, heavily consulted, and I think what it is now as the benchmark, because that's what you get to do in the mid of the 10-year cycle, is the 5 years, you can rewrite that SSP and compare it to the original. I think it's a completely different way of being. The other issue is also there's more focus with regards to the sector skills plan, but also with the strategy, because our strategy emanates from that sector skills plan. So now in terms of the sector skills plan, the transformation agenda is the overarching component within that strategic plan. There are things clearly coming through, like, for example, the 4IR space, the transformative space within digitization, and how we're going to embrace this with regards to skills development, with a strong focus on youth, a strong focus on women, and a strong focus on people with disabilities, within an urban, peri-urban, and a rural context as well, which really makes it exciting. And then one of the things as well is that gone are the days where you are pulling a 10-ton truck with you to try and get to the sector to respond to economic needs. We're very proud, and it's particularly with my business units, we do a lot of analysis and a lot of economic review, and that puts up the stem in terms of the sector skills plan. In that strategy now, I would like to think that we are far more agile, far more responsive to sector needs, and far more responsive to potential growth needs within the sector. The next plan that emanates from this is the annual performance plan, which is where, I suppose, where we get judged of how quickly we're moving against that 5-year plan. For those of you that don't know, this comes on an annual basis and is reviewed by the Auditor General, it's reviewed by the Audit Committee, it's reviewed by the Department, and it's reviewed by the Department of Monitoring and Evaluation and Treasury. I didn't realize I had so many bosses, but I do. And so does the CEO. So the first program that we look at in the sense of the SETAs, none of the SETAs annual plans have been messed with in the sense of the way that they're formed. So we all have an administration component. As already been referred to this evening, we would like to, in the next audit cycle, get another unqualified audit. And I believe that we're there. And I actually think by 2027, 28, perhaps we are starting to talk about a clean audit. Also, the other area is there's certainly been a growth in engagement with the sectors. And I don't think there's a business unit, whether it's operations, whether it's marketing communications, whether it's my guys, whether it's the provinces, who are not engaging with the sector. And I'd like to believe that it's one of a few sectors, SETAs, that actually have the pulse of stakeholders all the time, and very active in that space. Then we get to the program. Program 2 this is the area where I like to play, and it's about the development of the sector's response that addresses sector demands. It's about the provincial skills plans. Now, what is really, really interesting in terms of the Department of Monitoring and Evaluation, you would know that the municipal district model is now coming into play. So we will have provincial skills plans which pick up the context of the province, and in order to that they are able to meet specificity of what is going on in the province, right down to the district level. And it's going to be immeasurable for SETAs as well. We formalize strategic partnerships with MOUs, and what I like to also ensure that our MOUs are not just a piece of paper, but they actually become implementable. And we have a number of projects that run concurrently and stem from an agreement. Just in terms of the, focusing on the return on investment, we're going to spend a lot of time this year, 24, 25, so I'm hoping by the time you come around for next year, there's a lot of publications out, and we're working with CUT, which is the Central University of Technology, to have our publications actually accredited through the institution, which is, it's a big step for a SETA. Then in terms of, this is really where the meat is, and I think where the COO loses his hair, is the delivery of Program 3. And really, from that perspective, operationally, that is driven through Program 3 and Program 4. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very proud of this. I know the CEO mentioned it, but one of the big issues in terms of our strategic plan is around careers and careers enhancement. We would like the wholesale and retail sectors to become first choices for grade 10s and 11s. First choices in the next a couple of years. So we've invested a lot of money in the careers development and the careers development toolkit. It is the only careers platform on the African continent that does what it does in terms of, from a pre-assessment and assessment, working from the grade 10s right through to undergraduates, right through to postgraduates. It's a phenomenal piece of work done by a really, really clever crew, and I'd like you to, if you've got some time, to go and have a look. There is a tab on our SETA website that will take you straight through to there. It is going to enhance and advance learner-employer collaborations, and is going to give employers the opportunity to work on the site as well. It's robust, it is linked to innovation and technology that is changing all the time. It is linked to every single institution in this country, both public and private, in terms of the programs that are offered within our sector. And the biggest thing about this is it's showing youngsters that you can do anything within the wholesale and retail sector as a job, as an occupation. Yes, I can go and study a BCom at university, or I can go do engineering at a college, and I can come and work in the sector. And I think that's the big breakthrough that we are experiencing and engaging with the sector around the careers platform. So really go and have a look at it. There are a couple of things that will go live. Have gone live in the last couple of weeks. One of the most fascinating things is for bursaries, as an example, you'll be able to, as a learner, potential learner or a beneficiary, you'll be able to log on, talk to the institution via that, funded through the SETA. And then the really creme of this is that all our bursaries, eventually over time, and I'm talking about individual unemployed bursaries, is that the system will talk directly to the institution and download, and we'll be able to monitor those bursaries. And then there is a tactical team, for want of a better word, who will be deployed as soon as a student is in crisis, because it's going to measure that, because it's going to pull from the institutions the learner results all the time, quarterly, semesterly, etc. And I think that's really groundbreaking as well. In terms of the learning programs, the challenge here is to facilitate really innovative workplaces and learning opportunities in the sector, to partner with employers and to partner, not necessarily also focused and jammed into our sector, because that's why I'm kind of laboring the whole careers issues, because the COO and myself and the rest of the team and the operations team realize that you can't simply be confined to your area as well. Not this sector. It is really starting to straddle across. We want to be able to support learners, assist learners with opportunities, and enroll learners in candidacy programs, also in the work experience program, to ensure that they gather that experience. Part of our strategic plan is also to work within the SMME sector, to grow entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship. It's the space where growth is going to happen. And we're really committed to supporting young entrepreneurs in particular, so that there is a whole area of growth and development within the sector and bringing back into the economy. It's certainly the way to go. The other area with regards to learning programs and Program 3 is the appropriate skills, agility, and responsiveness of the workforce. Gone are the days where the COO says to you, I'm funding 5 programs, I'm funding 10 programs. It can't happen like that anymore, because this sector in particular is so diverse and bringing up so many different opportunities that I've mentioned before and in this space. Also, we want to improve the implementation strategies of bursaries for unemployed, as I've mentioned very briefly now. We want to certainly spend a lot of time to being able to measure that improvement, but improve the monitoring of funded, of unemployed and employed bursaries to improve our completion rate. And already we're starting to see the tide turn. We want to turn it more. I think SETAs across the board, particularly as us as well, we struggle with this completion rate within institutions, whether they be CETs, TVETs, or higher education institutions. So that's pretty much key, of what our driving force at the moment. The other area is, we know that this is a SETA is business and labor. So we invest a lot of time and and resources, working very, very close to trade unions and in particular trade union members to participate in various kinds of capacitation programs. And that's driven by our willingness to work with those partners. Quality assurance functions, we've changed a lot of this. We were getting quite a bit of flack from the Auditor General because when we started in 2018, 2019 around quality assurance, it was the stock standard quality assurance. If you go to any CETA program for, that's what you're doing, certification, completions, etc. Then as we moved through the last 5 years, the flow of that changed because we realized that we needed to spend a lot more time capacitating, particularly public institutions in occupations. Remember, the QCTO was by that time coming into full ball around delivering of occupations. Now we've gone back to the original stance with regards to quality assurance with some nuance changes. So you will see that quality assurance, which is program 4, is growth-focused programs for the development and the support of training providers within the strands, higher education, technical and vocation, and of course community-based education, which is, I'm still afraid, it's the Cinderella and really needs CETAs to get behind it because that's where your entrepreneurial SMME development is going to happen, is in communities and community-based training providers. We continue to obviously support the public TVET colleges around centers of specialization. And what is really, really nice around this as well is that the research chairs are also starting to show us, where we work with higher education, that there is the capacity within TVET colleges to start developing research and capacity around research within the TVET colleges, and why not? Why do you always rely on an academic institution where we've got institutions that work directly with industry? Then, of course, with quality assurance as well, we want to remain agile, responsive, relevant within the sector. So we want to commit further to developing and reviewing our occupational qualifications. I still think they need to get crunched. I still think they're too big in responding to and remaining agile in the sector, but that's what we're going to spend a lot of time in the next while. We already started. I believe the COO is already has 7 underway, 7 proposed by March, and then the big thing is about working with the industry, because remember, occupational qualifications are not decided upon by CETA. They're decided by you, industry. And if industry is not vocal, the CETA won't respond and develop those programs. So again, I just put it out there that the COO has got that under hand, and I'm sure there's a whole program of engaging with the sector, looking at the plans, and then industry voicing what they require. Obviously, to improve certification and the processes around certification for unemployed and employed learners to complete the learning programs, and particularly around artisans and technicians. We're well on the way. We had some catching up to do, because remember, this CETA was never really programmed to take on artisans and technicians. And then the department got stroppy with us and said, you will. So then we did. And the COO has been working tirelessly over the last 3 years, bringing that into fruition, and we've already had artisans exit the CETA programs. We don't hold trades, but what is really relevant, and you'll find it in the strategic plan now, and you'll find it in the sector skills plan, is that there's a really strange anomaly that the industry is now starting to demand trades, whereas in the past, the industry's response was, no, well, someone else will provide. If I need an electrician in a shopping mall, it's someone else's problem. And that's changed over the last couple of years. So we're quite invested in artisans and artisan development and ensuring that they complete and that they are supported. So ladies and gentlemen, I see that's my allocation. And let me hand you back to the chairperson. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Machat, for making us to look forward. And we're looking forward to achieving the plans as an organization, not as an individuals. The next item is then to the floor. That's why you're here. So you've had all these presentations. So we'd like to then open up for questions and answer sessions. And Martha, please confirm that somebody's controlling the virtual one. Thank you. So all the reports have been provided. So in not any specific order, any question that you might have, we are all here to be able to answer you, because it's important that when you leave here, you are very clear of these reports. And before also we go to the adoption, I recognize the lady in white.
I'm sure I speak loud enough. So yes, thank you. I made
From
a couple of
ShopRite.
notes. I'm from ShopRite. I've made a couple of notes in where I don't really agree with the presentation. One being, my first question would be, in the last 5-year strategy, we know that QCTO has been coming along for a long time. Was that ever part of the strategy in the last 5 years? I see it is now, which is a little bit late because the legacy qualifications already expired in June. So from that perspective, we have also been very vocal since 2023 in putting forward requests with no form of acknowledgement for our sector's qualifications to be reviewed, designed and registered. There is not one skills program with the QCTO at the moment. And just to give you an idea, we put through between 4,000 and 5,000 unemployed youth on a skills program in 1 year, at a cost of many millions of rand. There's no funding from the SETA. And in saying that, we're at the stage now where from the 3rd of June, we have, basically it started in the beginning of the year, but right up until the 3rd of June, when we saw that the qualifications were going to, the legacy qualifications were going to expire at the end of June, it had a massive impact and effect on our WSP for this new financial year, where we were tossing the thought, how are we going to support that 4,000 unemployed youth that we offer gainful employment to after we have trained them? The SETA doesn't even have a funding model in place for QCTO qualifications. There's a ripple effect on our BBB scorecard. There is an effect from a tax rebate because none of these qualifications, or the very few that is registered, are not registered as learnerships because they do not have the 120 credits. So for us as such a big organization, I think our cries has fallen on deaf ears. We're at the point now where we've raised it. We're at the point where do we go directly to the minister? Because when will the minister? I came across a circulation that, or a notice that was not sent to stakeholders, but merely posted on the W&RSETA website, where very difficult to interpret as well, because it talks about, even though the qualifications for legacy are expired, your system is open for us to continue registering them at the risk of industry, and which would actually be illegal until it has been government gazetted and SAQA has increased or amended the extension date, enrollment date. So that's what, I'd just like to raise, engagement with stakeholders. Yes, we've had the CEO come and engage with us. But as I say, we don't get acknowledged, we don't get responses, we don't get solutions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So I think that I recognize you from the SSP. You raised that very passionately. And as the chairperson, I promise that I will take it back to management. And I think we have management here today because they gave us, the board, a different story from what some of the stakeholders are saying. And I think it's very important that we really put this matter into bed and really move forward as a sector. But I'd like to give the CEO the opportunity just to give a bit of background for the benefit of everyone in the room and why we where we at and what is the future going to look like. Over to you, CEO.
Okay, thank you. I think your observation is right that quality assurance or issues were not in the strategy. You will remember, or probably you might not be aware, that when we were doing the strategy at that particular point in time, the QCTO was taking over the function. So they were saying, we are taking the function, and the function is coming to us, so we will do everything. So even when we were doing our structure, looking at the structure and the organization, we're sitting, on both sides, on that particular issue. Hence, we didn't include it in our strategy. So then later on, then the QCTO then realized that they do not have the capacity. Then the function was, we continued with that delegation. So that's the first issue. Then the second issue is the fact that I think, I was talking to one of the stakeholders here outside, and I said, the qualifications, occupational qualifications that we have were done by the sector. And at that particular point in time, the sector decided to have lower credits for okay. What I'm saying is that, but that was we are not QCTO, but obviously we work together. But they came up with those lower, what do you call this thing, lower credits. And obviously, we are busy with that process of reviewing those qualifications. In fact, out of 21 SETAs, we are probably 4 SETAs that has occupational qualifications. They might not give you 120 credits as they were done, but and that is why then the QCTO also made a mistake when they were then extending the legacy qualification because of the fact that we had occupational qualification. But we kept on telling them, no, the sector we're not ready. The sector is not ready. We are not ready. QCTO, everyone is not ready in the process. And we've got that in writing. If we want to prove to you, we can prove that to you. Even yesterday, we're having the same discussion, and we were now saying we are now taking the matter to the minister. We all met as SETA CEOs because we are just not getting any assistance in terms of, and I think there's, and I don't like to say this, there's just no understanding of the impact of what is currently happening. And yesterday we could tell the frustration that we also have as SETAs. And obviously you see us, we are the face of the sector. So and we keep on telling you, QCTO, I mean, I'm even afraid. Maybe that is why you're no longer receiving any response from us, because we are almost at a dead end. As a SETA, we are as equally frustrated. Even that extension happened because we decided to call everyone in the meeting. We also even did, if I have to tell you, did unorthodox as SETA CEOs ways of ensuring that the sector gets supported in the process, and then they made a mistake. They didn't include us, and I thought we were the only SETA, and yesterday I realized that the other SETAs are going through the same situation where they just missed out extension. We then decided, you know, sometimes when you are a leader, you have to make a decision. There are two things that we could do, is that we can shut everything down, nothing happens, or we take a risk. And that's the risk that we've decided to do as a SETA, to open up the system, because the sector requires to do training. So that's what we've done as a SETA. If we get beaten for it, it's fine. But at least we've taken a decision, rather than not taking a decision at all. So I would like you to therefore take it that way. Take it in the sense that as a SETA, we've made a decision that we're opening. If we get the consequences, it's fine. But for us, it's for the benefit of the sector. That's all. I'm going to end it there. Thank you.
Okay, I think that was well articulated. The reason why it's not on the strategy, the challenges that we've been facing, which we are still facing with QCTO, who has been given the custodian of this process. But again, we are taking the risk, and we'd rather be accountable for the risk for the sake of, you know, skills development. We will deal with that when it comes. But I think let's give the CEO a hand of applause again for being innovative, coming with solutions. Okay, so we can now all move together forward, right? Thank you. Any other question? There is one next to ShopRite. Oh, ShopRite again. Hand of applause for ShopRite. Really active today.
I think the industry, given the CEO, thank you for the feedback, given the acknowledgement that the sector is not ready from a QCTO perspective, I think for us as the super large in Western Cape, who almost represent nationwide employees or unemployed youth being developed, from our observation, I think we require the SETA to capacitate themselves with resources to and put together an action plan to get us into a state of readiness. We've observed the protracted period that it's taken for qualifications to be reviewed. I think if we look at practically a point at which we can practically implement some of these qualifications that is being reviewed, we're looking at 2026. So we need a commitment from the SETA for the industry to appoint someone to pull all the effort together and almost manage all the efforts to get us over the line as an industry to start implementing these qualifications. On the note of the risk, I think industry is also taking a risk, financial risk, because we run the risk of, if the programs, the legacy programs do not get extended, it's a financial loss. And we suffer also findings on our side. So we appreciate the risk, but it is a dual risk that, that all of us will have to take.
Thank you, sir. CEO?
Yeah, I think it's an important point that you're making, and I think, and I'm going to commit the COO sitting there that we have to do that. We have to create a platform or a conversation or a session specifically to deal with the issue of the transition. How are we going to move from occupational qualifications, legacy qualifications into occupational qualifications? And I think that's the commitment that I'm making. In fact, I made a commitment in one of the stakeholders last week on Friday. I was cornered somewhere, you know, by a stakeholder. So I made that commitment, and I haven't spoken to the COO, but you know, I've already done that, so he doesn't have any options now. You know, so I think we really are happy with that. By the way, that stakeholder that met me is the one that said, she said to me, I'm the one that reported you guys to Outer. Yeah, she said I was tired, and then said I then reported you to Outer. But I think it's the frustration that I think we are seeing, all of us, and I think we're really aware of that frustration, but I'm positive that the outcome will be a positive one rather than a negative one from a financial point of view for yourselves. Yes, because yes, yeah. Yeah. Yes. Okay. I think the issue on the department, I can't make that commitment, but I think before the end of the financial year, next year, we'll set up a session where we get all the stakeholders together and have that particular discussion.
Yeah, it's risk everywhere, because it also means in terms of resources, we did not have any resources under QCTO in our structures. From our side as well, we've got that administration cost that we need to take into account. But I think in principle, we all agree that we need to work together on this.
On this, yeah.
And I don't think we're going to find we've got the commitment.
Yes.
Now, the next phase is let's get together and make it happen,
Before
taking into account all the risks.
Before 31 March.
Okay. Thank you. I think there was a hand at the back.
My name is Mkhululi Jack from Buffalo City TVET College in the Eastern Cape, East London. We've decided to take this trip as Buffalo City TVET College to say thank you to W&RSETA management and its board for the work that they are doing with the colleges, in particular on the element of work integrated learning. So we decided to come here to say it into your face, say thank you. Even the office in the Eastern Cape, there is a difference. One, the presentation that was made by the CFO, this is what we are struggling with on the work integrated learning element. You give us the award letter, we need to contract the learners, and they go to the workplace without the W&RSETA depositing the money. So the delays now in us as colleges getting the money makes the learners not to get the stipends. So the process of the awarding of the letter first and us contracting and taking the learners into the workplace without colleges getting the money, it is a challenge to us. That's the only thing. Otherwise, thank you very much for the work that you are doing.
Absolutely. I agree with you, sir. I think it is a challenge. But CEO, how can we, is it, Let me go through the CEO. The CFO just pays the money. He sets the policies. He sets the policies. So I want to know if those policies that have been set, are they constrained by any regulatory framework? Yeah, so can you just...
Chairperson, they are not constrained by any regulatory framework. One of the things that when we got into the SETA, when I got into the SETA in 2019, we had reserves of 3.4 billion rands. So that's where we were sitting as an organization. And the reason why we were sitting at that state as an organization is because there was just non-performance. We signed contracts, people sat with contracts. And then the following year, we make an allocation again. The other year, again, we make an allocation. So it was a recurring. That is why Debbie had to deal with what you call a backlog. One of the things was the backlog project. So we need to improve the turnaround time, and I think our processes have changed. I know initially we needed verification up front first before we can make a payment. But our processes has now changed because we did acknowledge that particular challenge that you have. And that challenge might also be specific to your environment, which just requires a little bit of management issue. So, and I think the COO is here. You can then have that kind of a conversation. Okay.
What about the payment CEO? Let's be clear. So an award letter is issued for 200.
Yes.
So I recruit 200, I only get 150.
Yes.
Because also sometimes by the time you've recruited, by the time you contract, the 50 has left already. So now you're sitting with 150. So I think the other question was, well, now they come and they work and there's no payment. Then they all leave now. So the issue of payment, that's why I was talking to the issue of regulation. What is stopping us advancing some money before the learner starts to the employers or whoever to avoid that?
Like I indicated, Chair, the biggest issue was the issue of verification, is that we first wanted to come to you and verify the learners that they are there. We've now changed that process to deal exactly with the issue that we are raising.
Including payment?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we now pay every day. The SETA pays every day. We used to pay once a week. The SETA is now paying on a daily basis.
Okay. Buffalo SETA, you covered? Thank you. All right. Any other questions?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, my name is Sibo Sowazi. I'm not from ShopRite.
Oh, we need an award for ShopRite tonight.
I'm from Nelson Mandela University.
Okay.
Mine is not a question. It's just a comment and a feedback. Similar to my colleague from
Eastern Cape.
Did you say? I think it was 3 years ago. We were in this forum where I raised our concern as universities around non-payment of funds by the wholesale and retail SETA. I just want to commend the SETA for being a responsive and listening SETA, because subsequent to that, the team led by, I think it was Mrs. Koza from Natal, Eastern Cape and Natal, came to our university to look at our challenges. And I'm happy to say this, that things have improved tremendously. For the past 2 years, we are receiving our funds timelessly. For instance, for this year, we have received everything this year. I mean, it's happening for the first time. And I just want to echo what has been said here, that there is improvement by the SETA. We see it, it's happening.
Thank you.
So what we're saying is that please keep it up. And we are also partnering with the SETA now in projects, not just bursaries, in projects. Dr. Machand mentioned the research leadership chairs. And this is one of the tool or the intervention that really is gonna be a game changer in South Africa. And I believe that the wholesale and retail SETA, with that, they are gonna, you guys are trendsetters, if I may put it, or trailblazers. I think other SETAs will follow you, because the research leadership chair, I think down the line it's gonna be one of the most important interventions in South Africa. So I just want to commend the SETA and to be thankful as well for the partnership and the cooperation and the improvement that is happening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is James Edwards, Skills and People Development. We work a lot in a sector that the chairman is quite familiar with. And I'm afraid I need to kind of continue the roller coaster in terms of the comments, because I just wanted to raise some issues, please, if you don't mind. With all due respect, when we hear stories about a lot of payments being made within 30 days, I did have a little snigger, because I can give you some figures that are very, very, very different to that. What I'd like to raise is, one is obviously it's the continuing payment issues. Again, there was scrambling because we hear that the Auditor General is busy and so on and so on. And invoices that are outstanding 90, 120 days, all of a sudden we get renewal notices, and we have to run around to the people and go and get contracts extended, so that the Auditor General doesn't moan at you and say that why are you sitting or why are you making payments outside of contractual periods. So it's very nice and easy for corporate to sit there and smile and kind of buff themselves because, look, we got this result. A lot of that is done because while payments haven't been made, we have to go around and make that look good by making sure that the contracts are being extended, so that we were promised that the payments would then be made. And again, then when that's been done, we're now sitting, 4 months later, and we still don't have payments on those. Those were contracts that the SETA entered into with small businesses and small providers to say, we, in terms of the contract, will make this payment within the 30 days. Why are we sitting nearly a year later and we still haven't been paid? Right? That's the first question. The second question, and I think, Mr. Chairman, this kind of reflects in terms of your 5-year strategy, which was devolving down to the regions and giving people in those areas the ability to interact.
What is the issue?
Why are the regions not capacitated or provided with the ability to provide information to the stakeholders? I can give you a very concrete example. Around financial information, if we want to find out whether a payment has been made, we go to our region. The region then CCs us in correspondence through to the finance department. I can show you emails. There's no response. This month it rolls over another month, it rolls over another month. And the regions simply aren't getting the response from the head office to be able to service their stakeholders, certainly in this kind of narrow area around the finances. And I just don't understand it. How can an organization like yours stand up here and pat themselves on the back when so many of those contracts haven't been paid? I don't understand.
Okay, James, let me answer it this way. There is a qualitative view in any discussion, and there's a quantitative view. So I'm standing here talking from a quantitative view because I see the results. As I started here, I said we commissioned an investigative study as this board. And the outcomes that we saw, I said they were quite alarming. And the CEO agreed with me. So if I can show you the outcomes of that report, in terms of how many days we were taking to process claims and to make payments, to where we are today. Because as the ExCo, We said also this must be a stand-alone item. The CFO comes in every EXCO meeting to give us a detailed age analysis of payments. And also when we stood here, we didn't say we've got it right. We said based on where we were when we started to where we are now, a number of payments are now within 30 days. That is factual. So you might be falling under the others that are not in 30 days. I'm not disputing that. But I'm not going to use your individual situation in terms of analysis. The analysis that we get as a board, which is the oversight responsibility, will look at the total population of claims to say, out of this population of claims, what is the period they've been in the system, and from the time, because the other thing, this is not an easy discussion, because we went to like that to management. And some of the information that we got back from management was quite alarming, because some of these delays in processing claims comes from the employers. Until, I'm being honest, so until the claim meets all the compliance requirements, there is no way that that claim can go to finance. So let's not generalize here. So if you've got an issue with your claims processes, let the CEO understand it so that he can investigate it. Because I think when we're talking here, we're talking to total population. We provide oversight in terms of progress. So basically from where we are now, we can come and show you the figures if you want to, which we can openly share with you. So that's where we're at. Yeah.
Using this platform is not going to happen. She needs to pull us out.
94% of the payments out of the Eastern Cape for invoices that were submitted back in February in this DG have not been made. Right,
Come again?
That is despite renewals. 94% were not paid.
Of claims in Eastern Cape?
Out of one specific group that we worked with in the Eastern Cape, of our experience. What I'm raising, though, is not just a narrow thing. It's not about us. The issue that I was raising was our ability to interact with the CETA and get financial information. Why was this mandatory grant payment different to the amount that we were expecting? We can't get a response. Was this discretionary grant payment made? We don't get a response. Was a payment made? Yes, we get, here's a proof, and we know that that money hasn't gone into the account. And again, this has been raised. We've got the proof on it, it got bounced. The CETA systems don't seem to be smart enough to pick up that an amount, although it might have been paid, has also been returned back into their accounts. Right? So these are they're ongoing issues. And as I said, the issue is not a specific one. It is just to say, if we're trying to interact with the CETA, how can we not get this kind of information from you in a timeous and accurate way? Because this going on and on and on.
Yeah, James, look, I think we can debate this thing the whole night. We never said here that we are perfect. The figures of expenditure, for example, that we showed to you, have increased drastically. Expenditure cannot increase drastically if the payment is going south. So that's what we're presenting here in terms of the bigger picture. Expenditure has gone this way from 2022. Which shows that there is more payments being made. But we are not here to say that we've got it 100%. And we don't want to leave the room with that. But to then walk away again here and say we have not improved, we cannot also accept that. Because figures say there is a huge improvement. We can just tell by expenditure that we've done in these past 3 years. So that we are very proud of. And I think we must give ourselves a round of applause for that. In terms of individual issues, we've got the CEO who can take care of individual issues and make sure we sort it out. It's in our interest that stakeholder issues should be resolved because we do not know the detail. It's until when the detail is seen by the CEO, then we can then look at that matter as a board. But right now, I don't have any piece of information in front of me to substantiate any individual issues on payments. Do we have any other questions, Martha, from the virtual
Yes, Chair,
floor?
just to bring in our online viewers, and And if you can allow me to get on that streak of commendations, we've got a few comments. One coming from Twarelo Sibila, who's saying, all good news to service providers, especially small businesses. Quick response on invoice payments is key to the growth of small businesses. And we've got Sbonelo Mbata saying, having a dedicated finance person to process payments is beginning to bear fruits for KZN. These strategic interventions are so critical to sustainability of training providers. Big ups to the board, CEO, and management. We are not yet where we want to be, but we are certainly not where we were. Siyabonga. And moving over on to another platform, we've got an extension of partnership coming from Promise Mantomi from Spark Group, saying, good afternoon, is it possible to get an overview of the employed learnership levels and employed bursaries shortfall targets that Mr. Mkwanazi is alluding to? We would like to partner and assist the sector with meeting those targets, as we currently have a huge appetite from our retailers on these initiatives. And lastly, if I may, Chair, another commendation is coming from Bonginkosi Ndabambi, who's saying, I would like to commend W&RSETA for allocating finance representatives to their regional offices. This has led to a remarkable improvement on the turnaround time in respect of the payments.
Thank you. There you go. Thank you. Hand of applause. Commentary on the other issues on, I think it was employed learners, right?
I don't
partnership.
know. I don't know whether the COO knows the shortfalls, if we do have any. I will not be able to provide that answer, but the COO is here. Maybe
the mic to give to the COO. This is our COO.
Yes.
Mr. Shoba, Sipo Shoba.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, indeed, we do have shortfalls, especially on your employed learners from bursaries and as well as your learning program. What we have decided is to start the process of expression of interest, because we have gone to the market. The sector didn't apply. Obviously, to be compliant with our processes in as far as being transparent and fair and honest to everyone. Now, we are looking towards the end of this month to process all the EOIs that will address 3 main interventions. That is bursaries for employed, for your undergrad, and we'll also be looking at learning programs, both skills program and learnership. And then we are also looking at the work integrated learning placement. Those are the key 3 interventions that we will be starting to process the EOIs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, COO. I heard the word partnership. We love partnerships. Who is it? Repeat again, Matau.
SPA.
Please, please, come and partner with us. I said, in the areas where we cannot deliver, we are struggling to deliver, we must always look at partnerships. So this is an offer, COO. So please go and speak to them. Because as a board, you know as well, we are always questioning this issue of why are we not achieving the bursaries for employed. It's a serious, serious problem. If we are really serious about the development of our nation, we have to educate our nation. There was a commentary from one of the universities. And if you go to developed countries, even like China, even is an emerging country, you'll be amazed that they will tell you that in any nation to prosper, there are 4 phases. Firstly is science, then is research, then is the production, in other words, the application of research, and then the mass production. That's the philosophy of developing countries. So if you haven't got these 4 right, you're never going to have a developed society that will be able to actually change the economy of our country. So we want to focus on improving the education of our young people, including the research that was mentioned. Thank you. So I can't see any other hands. It was quite a good feedback. And all the comments that were made, we really appreciate that. We have now come to the last item, which is the adoption. And I've got to make a correction on the last year's resolutions. We don't approve here. The board doesn't want to abdicate its responsibilities. The board approves the AFS and the annual strategy, et cetera, When we bring these reports here, it's for you to listen and understand them and challenge us like you were challenging us. But after that, for the AGM to be conclusive, is to then, adopt these reports. So I always make people ready for this, because when you raise your hand to adopt, you are not making yourself accountable for anything. It's just to say, these reports were presented to me. I was in the meeting, and I understood everything that was presented to me. So I want to make this as quick as possible, because there is dinner between this item and this session. So the first report that was actually presented, I need a mover. You just say your name and your business, where you come from. If you're independent, it's fine. You are independent. So the first report was the chairperson's report. The AGM needs to adopt that they actually received an overview of the report of the chairperson of the board. And can I then get a mover and a seconder? You just raise up your hand. Thank you, sir. You can just say, base management will help us with taking the names. Just say your name.
Steve Lang from the building company.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. Seconder. Yes, from the department. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And then the next report was presented by our CEO. The annual general meeting needs to adopt the CEO's report, which, amongst other things, highlighted the performance of 91% of our annual performance plan. Can I get a mover and a seconder for adoption? Thank you, ma'am. Just there's a mic next to you.
Crystal Sivnarain from SAS Service Consultants.
Thank you very much. There is a seconder again, a lady.
Linda Siengo from Takealot.
Thank you very much. The third. Okay, the third report is the CFOs on the audited annual financial statements for the year that ended March 2024. Can I get confirming that we received an unqualified audit opinion as well? Can I get a mover and a seconder? There's a gentleman there. Thank you.
Carl Montour from Plumlink.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Seconder, that side.
Louise Jackson from Lewis.
Thank you very much. And then the last item that was presented by Dr. Machad on the presentation of the recommendation of the 5-year strategic plan and also the annual performance plan for the year that is ending 2025-2026. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Yes, there's a mover. Ladies are leading this time around. Let's give a hand of applause for ladies.
Roxy Marosa from Beauty in a Box.
Thank you. Seconder.
Wesley Pillay from Great Minds Consulting Group.
Thank you very much. We have now come to the end of our AGM. Let me just also, thank these particular people. We always forget about them, but the board, for it to operate effectively, we have secretariat. And we really want to also pass our gratitude to Lorraine. I'm not sure if she's here. Oh, there is Lorraine. Yes, our board secretariat. And then we also got a new, they call it what? It's a new block in the house. Or what's new kid in the house. English is not my first language, guys. Okay. But I was not far off because you need a block to build a house, right? We have Mr. Zakele Mtina. If you can stand up. Yes. And last but not least, we've got Onika. I don't want to say the same name because now you're going to trouble Onika. Onika Motsepe. Oh, she's outside. Okay, so thank you very much for all the work. Let's give them a hand of applause. I now, before the dinner is going to be served outside, I'm told it's going to be a cocktail type of dinner. I don't know what that means, but you'll find out outside. It's served in the foyer. And thank you very much also to the organizers, marketing. Martha, please stand up. Thank you very much for also organizing. Martha from the communications department. On that note, I then hereby officially close this meeting and wish you well. Block in the house. I just had a block myself there. There was a mental block. Thank you, ladies. Hey? Oh, thank you very much. Thank you guys for the performance again. That's great. We're looking forward, even if we're not here, to see better results.
No, but I mean, it will be like the fruits that you have planted, fruits of what you have
Thank
planted.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
The fruits of what you have started.
Yes.
They always say sometimes you don't get to sit under the shade of the tree that you have planted.
Yes. No, but I think also
Today we have come to launch a very historic project, which is the first ever education infrastructure owned by the Community Education and Training College. And this has been sponsored at our request by one of our SETAs, the wholesale and retail SETA. So this is the first ready-made building owned by a community college, which has got not only classrooms, but also has got workshops for practicals, as well as other facilities, information and communications technology to enable to train and produce the kinds of skills wanted by our adults. So that's what we've come here to do today. But what we want to do is that much as we are still going to be using schools for some time to come, but is to begin to have ready-made buildings and structures for community colleges. in order to offer a mix now. Your old adult basic education and training colleges were only offering academic programs, progression. Please make use of the structure, it's yours. The government has built it, but it's for you. And also please look after it, especially to our young people. I do foresee in future, 10, 15 years from now, middle-aged people saying as a young person, that's where I laid the foundation for the work that I'm doing today as an entrepreneur, or as a professional, or as an artisan, or having some skills that I'm able to use in order to make a living for myself and for my family. We also now are adding short skills program, whether it's welding, whether it's basic bricklaying, whether it's baking, whether it's knitting, a whole range of needs. This represents our effort in deliberately expanding community education and training initiatives in our communities.
The wholesale and retail sector, which is the sector that we service as the W&RSETA, comprises of over 8% SMMEs. So that is quite a huge number. You are actually our biggest stakeholders. So it just makes sense that we get into a room and talk to you. Our CEO is here to listen to you. He's here to hear you, tell him what is the mandate that you are giving to the W&RSETA to say this is how the W&RSETA can grow the SMME sector.
So we've got a roving mic right around the room, and I want to ask everyone, what are your expectations? Why are you here?
Hi everyone, I'm Cynthia. I'm from First Light Import and Export. I'm here today because I would like to see how W&RSETA can advance my business.
Good morning, colleagues. My name is Temba Denchauke from TYS Business, and I'm also a member of Township Entrepreneurs Alliance. Why I'm here, I want to align my business with W&RSETA because we do a lot of work with young people between Tembis and Sunspread. So what basically we do, we manufacture body sprays.
As we will be unpacking today's conversation and engaging, understand one critical thing. The most important person in this room is the person sitting next to you. If you had any other agenda or any other thoughts, you've got it wrong. Why? Because that person could be a catalyst for you going to certain markets.
Guys, it's very important that when you attend such events, you're going to learn. Do that, like take as much as you can. It's up to you.
Have you ever had a moment in these 22 years where you felt like giving up? Or you actually did give up? And what did that look like?
I have a lot of them.
What was the experience? Take us through that.
I lost my car, I lost my house. What do you do? And your people, your peers, your friends, they just decide that, we don't want to be with you. You know, you are a failure.
So what keeps me up at night is not having customers, guys. When I don't get clients, I don't sleep. Honestly, I don't sleep. And lucky enough, I do have challenges, but I'm one person who, whenever there's a problem, I'll find a solution.
It's efforts such as these which really cement the W&RSETA as the best SETA in the country, especially when it comes to supporting us as small business owners. Some of us come from disadvantaged background with no prior knowledge of how to run a business, but you've empowered us to be able to be where we are today.
So just I think from the first part of our program that we had, and we had the panel that gave us, you know, they shared their own stories, you know, which yet now gets into a different part of the program where, you know, much to what the gentleman was sharing earlier on, just sharing with the CEO and the team, how can you help? Where can the improvements be?
When you run a sustainable business, then you're able to employ more people. And that's when we're going to be able to fight this unemployment rate and poverty. But sitting in this room, we are the solutions. So I would like to urge each and everyone, let's work together. And I therefore encourage that each one tell another. As entrepreneurs, let's hold each other by the hands. Let's grow each other.
Maybe we need to go back to the schools, starting at grade 10. Just expose them. about the opportunities in the retail, because retail is very important.
I would like to collaborate with wholesale and retail SETA so that we can assist the SMMEs. In terms of township economy, we can really build a strong, sustainable businesses if we all buy from each other.
What has become very clear today in our conversation is that, and I think it's something that we've been saying as W&RSETA, that we can't do this work on our own. We need big business, FDIs, those that are in the funding space, they need to be with us. We need those that are running in organizations that are dealing with issues related to incubation, mentorship, and support. So I think we need to create then that opportunity, a session like this, when we get all these big companies to come to you and have a conversation with you, so that we can then play a role from a skills development point of view, and they play a role in terms of the support.
The engagement means many things. For one, it's very empowering, being able to network and engage with like-minded individuals, being able to share our stories, pat each other's backs, and just share in our testimonies and our trials and triumphs as entrepreneurs, as only we can understand them.
So through skills development and so on and so forth, that's when ultimately your challenges in business are going to be resolved.
Most entrepreneurs, they give up because they don't know where to start, how to get access to information, and how to actually get the way forward, because people start businesses but they don't know where to go in terms of growth, which is W&RSETA give us a lot of opportunities and programs that people can enhance their business. They can be also visible on the platforms.
One of the things that came up from the panel earlier on was how these amazing three ladies were supported by the SETA were able to just weather all the storms. But it wasn't easy. They had to endure, build resilience, and continue to go out there and put their word out. And that's how you actually get support and development.
As an entrepreneur, if you feel that you are going through a hard time as an entrepreneur, the calling is loud. And it's all the more louder the harder things get. But we'll get through on the other side.
My success story would be, thank you, W&RSETA. Thank you, CEO. Thank you, Sis Mata, for making me one of your best beneficiaries. Thank you. Thank you so much, because I wouldn't be here without you.
As the summary and closure, then we're done. Some of the things that came out, the first one was definitely access to market program, including agriculture, processing and farming, and a range of other sectors that will be covered under here. The second one was youth entrepreneurship focus on digital. The third point was on retail value chain support and owning the value chain. The fourth one was on entrepreneurship incubation. The fifth was on bringing big business along for the journey to engage with small business and outlining solutions they seek and opportunities. The second last one was retail academy with full business support on various aspects of running a retail business. And then the last one was collaborating to create awareness of the W&RSETA programs. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes our business for today. Thank you so much for joining the CEO's SMME engagement. Have a beautiful day further. God bless.
Today, we are extending the CEO Stakeholder Engagement Program.
So today we're having the first ever executive conversations.
You are the decision makers, and that is the reason why you are here. You are aware of the challenges that we are facing as a sector, and the solutions are actually in your hands. So hence you are here.
What is really, really important for us is how do we work together to ensure that we grow the sector? How do we innovate? How do we ensure that we empower those that are in the employ of the organization? We've got a lot of challenge in terms of our numbers. We don't necessarily meeting our targets in terms of those that are in the employ. It is therefore important that as a country, we really look at our workforce and our workplaces and ensure that our workplaces, as the previous minister used to say, that they become training spaces.
The way I designed this is not for us to have a talk shop, but for you to engage at a room level, for you to engage as individuals. And so you'll see that they flip charts across the room. You will be allocated a room. My request to you is use the theme that you have been given, and I will give you now, at the table you've been allocated to, and really focus on 3 things. You'll see there's 4 questions that we've given to you. Speak at a system level, at an industry level. Number 2, the way we're going to do this is we've allocated 40 minutes for you to have a discussion at your table and to really go quite deep. How would you solve for this issue? Come with some practical, viable, feasible solutions that you think are important. And then thirdly, how do we take this forward? We're not going to solve it in one day, but today's a spark. Today's the accelerator. Today's the starting of that growth that says, how do we do this?
The question was, what emerging markets and trends should the sector be aware of? And our conversation was really around omni-channel. And the conversation we were having is to say there's a distinct difference between e-commerce and what omni-channel looks like. And how do we build that capability and how do we build that understanding?
We're talking on addressing youth unemployment and building future skills. We're here in this room, we've met quite a couple of people in different, same sector, just different companies. How about cross-company collaborations? What are you doing at Pick n Pay that we can piggyback on? What are we doing at Norcross that you can piggyback on?
If you ask anyone in high school whether or not they want to work in an Edgar's or in a retail space, they won't mention that because there's no guidance. But if there's a collaboration between the SETA, the employers, and the TVET colleges, and even the formal universities during career days and things like that, that can actually work.
The other element that we looked at is whether we, as bigger retailers or bigger doors, can move operations out further out to create more jobs in terms of logistics and manufacturing, and make it more accessible for rural development, and where we view expansion might be coming in.
When you bring multiple actors, from large companies to medium companies to small companies to training providers to particularly interesting individuals from different parts of the ecosystem, we have this ability to solve issues despite the competitive landscape at a system level.
We are at a point where I think we're excited about the future. Conversations that were had in today's meetings were, I think, an eye-opener.
I think we do face similar challenges, no matter how big or small we are, and also understanding the fact that you're not alone. There is quite a lot of support out there.
As we said today, retail and wholesale has never been known as a very attractive industry for a lot of young talent. So how do we get talent into the industry? And then I think it's around how do we develop the right skills? So things that we discussed would be around data and ensuring we have a full understanding of omni-channel and delivering the experience our ever-evolving customer is looking for.
We are going to take all of this input as part of the strategic planning process. And as you've indicated, Abdullah, that it's not, we need to prioritize because there's quite a lot that has come out. And if we are going to try and do everything all at once, we are not going to succeed. So I think with that, we have received our marching orders as the W&RSETA, and we are ready to go.
It's not just a conversation that I guess is the SETA's responsibility. Some of the discussions that we had here, we can implement in our own private spaces. And from here onwards, it's action, action, action.
I think it affords an opportunity for us to say we don't need to solve these things alone. We can solve them together. So it's a massive appreciation to the SETA for all the great work they've done to date with us. But having the conversation today, I think we look forward collectively to a brighter future as it relates to the wholesale and retail SETA.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a glorious morning. Thank you so very much to our esteemed guests for making the time to join us as we celebrate collaboration.
Today we are here to celebrate the presentations and graduation ceremony of the Wholesale and Retail SETA in collaboration with Zetech University Informal Traders Exchange Program.
Moving on to the program, we are now going to invite on stage the Chief Executive Officer of the Wholesale and Retail SETA, and that is Mr. Tom Mkwanazi, to come and give us an overview of the program as well as welcome us to this meeting. Mr. Mkwanazi, please. We can clap for him.
It's been a very, very, very interesting journey and successful completion. And this today's celebration really is a symbol of triumph.
This training marks a major milestone because it's the first time that we have been involved in training traders outside Kenya. ZTEC has been involved in training locally for large scale, small scale, and also informal sectors. But we have not done it outside Kenya, and therefore we are very, very grateful, Tom, for giving us an opportunity to collaborate with the government of South Africa.
The collaboration between these two institutions is a reflection of the deep and broad relations between our two countries. Kenya and South Africa have enjoyed warm and cordial relations spanning over a period of 30 years.
The program started in August last year, and the program was mainly to upskill the informal traders in South Africa in the wholesale and retail sector. So we identified these traders from all the provinces in the programs that we've been doing. We wanted them to go and experience how other countries are doing, especially Kenya. Kenya in this regard has got a thriving informal trading economy. So we wanted them to learn about collaboration. How can our South African informal traders collaborate with the foreigners for them to take their businesses as serious businesses, because they play a role in the economic growth of this country and contributing into the economy of the country.
The main aim of this market immersion was for the participants to see what exactly is in our market. You can see there, for example, we had the participants visiting a coffee plantation that has over 500 acres of coffee.
One of the things that we realize is that institutions can become silos. You have your own information, you use it, you do not share. We can stay in South Africa and think that we are the only ones who know how to do business. We can stay in Kenya and stay with our knowledge and now start competing with South Africa. But in the real sense, the African culture is that one of Ubuntu, a collaboration, coming together and helping to change lives. Because through what appeared to be a very simple collaboration, we have been able to change lives. We have seen people register new businesses. We have seen people